This is D'Angelo Cole again, and this is my reflection for week 2 of our go-to session. This week we really went over knowing what our data types were in our objects and how to use them in our loops to bring up what we wanted to. One of the things we pointed out is making sure that we know what our keys and our values are when we're setting up our arrays and everything. As you can see here, Golden State is our object, point guard is a key, and Steph Curry is the value in these two, and we're setting things up like this. One of the good things that we kind of went over was that we could set them up as far as going over our creating our values and our arrays and everything is to do a bullet point in a step ladder. As you can see, I did cars, and cars, this is our object, and inside there's a key, Nissan, and Ford is a key, and Optima, which would be the object, and these are arrays here, which would be Optima, and then everything inside of Optima would be our arrays. And same thing, whereas Ford, Explorer, and Focus would be our arrays that we would have in here. And going through as we set up, we would kind of make sure we set up our data types the right way so that we can make sure we're printing them out for our loops and everything like that. You see, we put our titles in. This title would be Nissan Cars. That will come up in the footer, would be most broad in this case. And our names for our rows will pop up as Ultima, and a description of that will be Flagship. The same thing for Century, and we'll do the same thing for our Ford. And so we print these out, and we want our code to run. We would set up our for loops, and if we wanted it to count up through the array, as you can see, our array would be the rows in this case, or it'll pull up the length, and it kind of changed it up around a little bit. But going down, you can see where we have our cars.ford.i rows, and the length of that rows is our array because it's in the braces. Cars is the actual object that we will be pulling from. Well, Ford, and then we would go into right here, rows, Explorer, famous. We're going to rotate through those. Ford is our object, and cars is our other object. So that's why we would put cars.Ford, and the I as our counter. The rows we would pull from the length of the rows here, and count it up through the end. And the same thing we could do for our for loop, setting it up and pulling out our arrays through that. So basically, through our whole session, we've learned to really know what our objects are, what our data types are, and how we're going to pull them out, and how we're going to use them to print out onto our screen, and when we need to use those, mainly so that we can grab the information and pull it out in the correct way.